Farmers in southern Ukraine made this video as they prepared to tow away some Russian trucks.
Ці суки приїхали, мій чорнозем український висить. Подивіться, блядь, непобіждені, блядь.
Вот такие дела, ребята.
One of the trucks has a Pantsir surface-to-air missile system on it. Alexander's friend Andriy today has 3 Russian vehicles in his yard, or what's left of them.
We repaired 2 and gave them to the Ukrainian army. The others are good for spare parts. If one of our soldiers' vehicles breaks down and they need a part, we'll of course help them. Look, this one was bulletproofed. That's a rarity. It's got super thick glass. But that didn't save them. Nothing will save them on our territory.
Ukrainian forces fought Russian troops off the farm Andriy works on in mid-March.
The Russians weren't on our fields for long, so they didn't have time to lay mines. But I heard they did on other farmers' lands.
As for Alexander, most of his land is occupied by Russian forces. As he takes us to see the few fields that aren't, he talks to his sister, who's in the occupied area.
Are they shooting there?
Constantly. There's constant shooting back and forth.
And is there electricity in the village?
No, there hasn't been for 2 weeks.
Their mobile connection only came back this morning, literally. There are Russian soldiers in the village. They kicked the security guard off our farm. Locals tell us the Russians drove tanks across our fields and dug trenches.
Alexander currently has access to only 600 of his 5,000 hectares, and to only 1 of his 8 tractors.
Almost all of our farming machinery is on the occupied land. It's expensive stuff. We just finished paying off our loans. Plus, all the seeds are over there, and most of the fertilizer and pesticides.
This winter wheat is getting less than half the fertilizer it usually receives. Even if Alexander does manage to harvest some crops this year, he doesn't know what he'll do with them.
In this barn, we've got more than 500 tons of sunflower seeds. Normally, we'd sell them to sunflower oil producers, but right now, we can't transport it to the factories, and all the ports are blocked anyway, so they can't export the oil.
In normal times, Ukraine accounts for more than 40% of the world's sunflower oil, and most of the country's exports go by sea. But now 2 of its ports are occupied, 2 under attack, and while Odessa is largely unscathed so far, Russian warships and mines in the Black Sea make its ports unsafe to use. Ukraine's farmers' union is calling for urgent help to find alternative routes.
Today, our export capacity is tens of thousands of times lower than when the ports were open. And Ukraine supplies food for the whole world, so there should be some kind of strong reaction from international organizations, but there hasn't been.
Ukraine's exceptionally fertile soil has made it a key player on global food markets.
This is our black soil. This feeds people in Ukraine and abroad too, all over the world. It's our earth and our livelihood.
But even in areas that are far from the fighting, like here, this year's crop will be much reduced.
We didn't think there would be war. So some of the seeds we didn't buy yet, we thought we'd buy them in spring. We were supposed to get them from Kharkiv, but the suppliers have had their stocks destroyed.
Lyudmila and her husband recently bought a new car. Their small farm had been doing well. Now, she says they'll plant as much as they can so that at least Ukrainians don't go hungry, but they've little hope of any profit.
This war has turned our whole lives upside down.
Despite everything, Alexander and his friends do try to relax from time to time, picnicking on a hunting reserve they manage. They've also come to feed the reserve's wild boar. But Russian occupation has put even them in jeopardy.
All their food is stuck over there, and we've only got a week's worth left.
If the boar have to be set free, it's the end of the hunting reserve. One more small tragedy for these men, on top of all the bigger ones.